first of all, welcome everybody. My name is Lisa Torgerson, and I'm the Director of Leisure Travel Services for Travelex International. And today I have partnered with AmaWaterways and Mary Margaret, and the product manager for Egypt. His name is Todd. I'm going to let Mary Margaret talk a little bit more about him. But I want to welcome all of you, and I appreciate you and Todd taking the time to join us this afternoon and share an exciting product to Egypt. So I'm going to let you take it away, Mary Margaret. Before I do that, though, really quickly, before I forget, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box, and we can answer them at the end of the presentation. So go ahead, Mary Margaret.
Thank you, Lisa, and welcome everybody, and thank you for taking the time to learn about this fabulous product that I've had on my bucket list since I've been in the 7th grade. So I'm excited to share this with you. And I'm going to introduce Todd. You see his picture in front of you. Todd is our product manager, not only for this fabulous product of Egypt that he's put together, but our wonderful, very unique Africa program as well. So next slide, Todd, please. I'm going to give you just a little bit of history of our company. We were founded in 2002 by 3 wonderful travel executives, and one being Rudy Schneider. He is our president, co-founder. He's also our architect. He designs all of our ships. Christine Karntz, our co-founder and executive vice president. Yes, they are husband and wife. And our 3rd co-founder is Jimmy Murphy. And Jimmy Murphy, unfortunately, we lost him in 2014, but his son, Gary, has taken over. And he is a co-owner and a senior vice president of our sales for AmaWaterways. And I want to tell you that these 3 owners are hands-on owners. They don't sit in their white ivory tower dictating to us out in the field what to do. They are there. It's not unusual for them to show up on one of our ships unannounced just to meet you. So again, thank you very much. And next slide, please. I know everybody's concerned about what's going on with all the protocols and with this wonderful COVID-19 that we've been dealing with for the past 5 months. Well, we are very, very fortunate, I have to tell you, that the Ama Christina is actually sailing on the Rhine as we speak. And it's being chartered by Ehoy, which is a tour operator, a German tour operator. And so we've gotten the protocols, because our protocols have to deal with every single country that we sail through. So the face coverings, the temperature checks, all of our crew, that's constant. You as one of our guests will, in the public areas, such as if you're walking through the halls, obviously not in your staterooms. We've got dividers up so that you do not have to do that when you're sitting in our lounge area enjoying a drink, or in the dining room when you're sitting at your table. Social distancing, yes. The luggage is sanitized, but we have all of our protocols and what we are doing on this website, amawaterways.com/travel-updates. So if you're at all interested. But again, when we have our quiet box system. So we're not, social distancing can be 6 feet apart, as well as we have very small groups that we travel with. So once we can travel, because the oceans are sailing, and we would love to be out there, but unfortunately we have to wait. So, but again, we have got the protocols down pat. Next slide, please. And I'm from here, I'm going to let Todd take over, because he's my expert. Take it away, Todd.
Okay, good afternoon, early evening, everyone. It's nice to be here. My name is Todd. I'm one of the product managers here at AmaWaterways, and I guess I've been here for about 5 years now. So this Egypt program is a new program we're launching later in 2021. And on this map, I just kind of want to put you in perspective where all these different destinations are located. You can see Cairo in Egypt is in the northeast corner of the continent of Africa. And if you look, you got flights down, back and forth, just south of Cairo to Luxor. That's where you board your cruise on the Nile. And pay attention to bottom left-hand corner. It says Abu symbol. I'll talk about that later on in the presentation. You can also see Israel, Jordan, and UAE, or United Arab Emirates of Dubai. Those are on the map simply because those are extensions that you can do before and after the program. So here's a layout of our program in Egypt. It's 12 days long. It starts with 3 nights in Cairo. Then we fly south to Luxor. The flight takes about 60 minutes to fly down there. We board our ship in Luxor, and we do a 7-night cruise along the Nile, fly back to Cairo for 1 night, and then you can fly home on day 12. Or you can take an extension to Israel, and again, before Egypt, Jordan, and Dubai are possible extensions. All right, so the sailings that we do have start in September of 2021, and they run weekly right through to June 2022, and then I'll start up again in September 2022 right through to December. We don't sail in July and August. It's too hot in Egypt at that time. Again, we'll talk about that in a bit too. Okay, so the first slide I'd like to show you, this is Cairo. Cairo is a massive city, huge city, 22 million people. The river you see running through the heart of Cairo, that is the Nile. Cairo itself is the Arabic word meaning the conqueror. And the Nile River is, well, it is the longest river in the world by most standards. Some people say the Amazon is, but the Nile is 4,300 miles long. It starts up in Uganda and in Lake Victoria, and it starts as the Blue Nile and the White Nile, and then again they converge, and we have the regular Nile that empties into the Mediterranean. A couple of just little things about Cairo and Egypt themselves. Cairo, a weekend in Cairo is actually Friday and Saturday, whereas here it's Saturday and Sunday. Egypt itself was founded about 3000 BC. And the Egyptians are the ones that came up with the 365-day-a-year calendar. And just to kind of tell you how large Cairo is, even way back in the 14th century, the city already had a population of 500,000. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our new ship. This is the AmaDahlia. It's currently in the shipyard in Cairo, being rebuilt. In Egypt, you cannot bring a brand new ship or any more boats onto the Nile. So the only way for us to get on there is to purchase a boat, strip it down to its hull, and rebuild it from the top up. And that's exactly what we've done. So the new ship is the AmaDahlia, 5-star ship. It has 34 rooms, 18 standard rooms and 16 suites. Of course, it'll come with a pool on the top. It comes with a wellness instructor. Well, actually, let's just go on a bit and I'll point out some of the things. Here's the layout of the ship. We have several categories. The decks on the AmaDahlia are named after flowers that are native to Egypt. Also, when you think about it, the AmaDahlia, the dahlia is also a flower that grows in Egypt. So we have the acacia deck with the lowest categories. These are standard rooms just with a picture window, and they range, well, they're about 196 square feet. And then you work your way up to the purple section, that's category C, and these rooms are larger. They come 226 square feet, and they all come with a French balcony. Anything above that, green, the turquoise, the dark blue, and the pink, those are all suites, and they range in size from anywhere from 370 square feet up to 430 square feet. The ship does have an elevator from the acacia deck right up to the jasmine deck. And if you look at the jasmine deck, you can see some of the features we have there. We have if you've been on an cruise through Europe or the Mekong, you'll notice that we have a private dinner, private restaurant that seats 12 to 15. It's called the chef's table. And each night we'll invite 12 to 15 guests to the chef's table, and they'll have a up close and personal dinner with the chef who will cook the food in front of you. The main restaurant is down on the lily deck. We'll also have a fitness room, a massage room with hair and nail salon. Of course, we'll have a bar, we'll have an outdoor lounge, and as I had mentioned earlier, we'll have a wellness coach on board for morning yoga, exercise and stuff like that for those that want to participate. The ship itself will hold 68 guests, and we have a crew of anywhere from 60 to 65. here's a picture of the top deck. This is with the pool. And you can see at the back, we have a lounge or bar where it has a roof over it. And the reason we do that in Egypt is because the sun is strong in Egypt. It doesn't rain very often in Egypt. And this just, certain times of the year it can get hot. So we have the protective covering. Those circular things that you see in the middle there, those are actually showers. And the odds of running into rain anytime on your cruise is pretty rare. The last time I was there, I was with my Egyptologist, and we're running around, and her name is Dina. And I asked Dina when the last time she saw rain here in Luxor, and she looked at me with a strange face and just shrugged her shoulder and said, I don't know, 17, maybe 19 years ago. So that's how dry it is. So these are renderings of the ship. They're still being updated, but this should give you a sense of what it's going to look like. This is the atrium, your main entrance into the ship. This is the bar, and in the bar, we'll continue with what we do in Europe as well as in the Mekong. And now in Southern Africa, we have this thing called sip and sail, which is, we have a happy hour before dinner every night. And the drinks are, well, they have a drink of the day, or certain drinks are complimentary during the sip and sail. We'll also have entertainment in the lounge after dinner each night. Captain will host a cocktail party. We'll have a belly dance show. We have what they call a galabaya party, which is a costume party, and people dress up like the locals. And if you wanted to participate, you can buy an inexpensive costume in the gift shop. Another thing we'll do is like what's called a Dara-wish show, which is folk music, cultural heritage of it's just a fun time and in the lounge. This is the main restaurant. Again, these are renderings. They're getting modified a little bit. The restaurant itself will be able to serve Eastern Mediterranean or Egyptian cuisine, as well as Western cuisine, continental, North American, tastes that you're all familiar with. We will have options for vegan, vegetarian, dairy, gluten, and so on. Also, with lunch and dinner, complimentary wine and local wine and beer are included with your meals. And local wine in Egypt, there are vineyards in Egypt, and so we do get grapes from the vineyards there, but they can't produce enough for the demand in Egypt. And so a lot of the wines are a combination of grapes imported from South Africa and Egypt to get your local wine. Here's a picture of several pictures of the rooms, suites, and so on. The bedding on the ship will be, you can either have a twin, 2 beds, or brought into 1 bed. All the suites will have a sitting lounge, and you can see that on the upper right-hand side. And there's sort of an aerial view looking down where there's that sitting room as well as the bedding. Of course, all the rooms will be air conditioned. We'll also have the on-demand television sets, and of course, Wi-Fi, and of course, Wi-Fi is complimentary. Here's another picture of the sitting room. You can see the colors of orange. It sort of blends in with the landscape of Egypt with the the desert environment. All the suites, 16 of them, will come with a tub and a walk-in shower. And something I didn't realize, but it is important with guests, all the suites will come with 2 sinks. Okay, so that's a bit about the ship. Let's talk about the itinerary in general. I kind of worked my way through from day 1 right to the end. So you'll fly from North America and you'll fly to Cairo. Most of the flights from North America arrive in Cairo in the late afternoon or in the early evening. And once you arrive, we'll meet you at the airport. We'll escort you through customs and immigration, and then we'll transfer you immediately to the hotel. One thing I should tell you, a visa is required for Egypt, and you can get the visa online, maybe apply for it 30 days before you leave on your trip. You go online, the price changes on the visa, but it's 25 to 35 US dollars, and you apply for it, and then you'll get a confirmation a couple of days later, print it up, take it with you. It's much better to do it that way rather than trying to get your visa on arrival. You'll whisk through immigration much quicker the visa in advance. Some people do ask also about medication for Egypt. Do you need any special medicine or something? No, it should be up to date with your vaccines and so on. And the question always comes up, do you need malaria medicine? And the answer is no for Egypt. So on day one, you're going to arrive at the airport. We're going to meet you, transfer you to the hotel. And this is the hotel we're staying in. It's called the Four Seasons Hotel Cairo at the residence. It's a 5-star hotel. If you remember earlier, I said Cairo is a pretty chaotic city. This hotel is located about a mile from the center of downtown Cairo. And we picked this location just because of its, well, number one, it's on the river. Number two, it's a more tranquil location. Across the street, you can see the trees there, is the botanical gardens and a park. And the hotel's not that large. There's only 200 rooms. And I'll tell you more about the amenities as we work our way on. Here's a picture of our rooms that we're going to use at the Four Seasons, and they're superior rooms. All the rooms have a partial Nile view, so it's something nice to wake up each morning. Complimentary Wi-Fi in your room. And for those that know their music systems and stuff, each room is equipped with a Bose music system. Here's a picture of the center of the Nile. So you can see kind of how you're hidden away from the whole city, yet you're looking over the Nile River. The hotel does, of course, have its pool. It has a fitness center. It does have a spa, and it's only 200 rooms, but there's, well, depending on the time of the year, 6 to 7 different restaurants in the hotel. And the restaurants feature cuisine from different parts of the world. When we are in Cairo itself, we do include lunch because we're all touring each day. Of course, breakfast is always included. And then dinner, we don't include dinner at the hotel simply because there are too many choices at the hotel and you can just go wherever you want. The odds are you probably won't want to leave the hotel in the evening because we'll be out sightseeing. Some may, but there's everything you need located right at the Four Seasons. If you go on TripAdvisor or some of those other websites and look for best hotels in Giza, right now the Four Seasons Hotel, the residence, is the #1 rated hotel in Cairo. All right, so you've arrived, you've come to the hotel, you've got a good night's sleep on the first night, and then the next day we're going to head off to, after breakfast, to the Egyptian Museum. And the Egyptian Museum was built back in the early 1900s. And one of the big things that it does feature is the masks from King Tut. The mask was found back in 1925 and in the Valley of the Kings. And King Tut ruled Egypt for 10 years, from 1332 BC to 1322 BC. But what's actually more remarkable is that King Tut died at the age of 19. So he started ruling Egypt at the age of 9. And so this is the Egyptian Museum. We'll spend a good portion of the morning at the museum. We'll have a tour of the museum, and then you'll have free time to explore on your own. A lot of people ask, will we go to the new Grand Museum while we're in Cairo? Actually, the Grand Museum will replace the Egyptian Museum once it's completed. All the artifacts from the current museum will be moved to the new museum. That museum will be phenomenal. It was supposed to be finished last year. It wasn't. So then they said it'd be finished this year, and it's not going to be. So now they're saying next year. So if it is completed by next year, we'll be visiting the new museum. Another thing we're going to do after the museum, we're going to visit the Khan el Kahili market. This is the local market. It's been around since the 10th century. This is where a lot of the artisans, craftsmen, and so on, this is where they all have their shops. And it's a lot of different coffee houses in here. In fact, we're going to have lunch here in the market area at a coffee shop, or it's a restaurant, but they call them coffee shops, or a coffee house. Coffee houses have been around Cairo since around 1760. And if you think about it, Starbucks became a phenomenal success in the, I guess, the 1990s. But Egypt have coffee houses dating back, what is that, 300 years now? So they were way ahead of the game. And of course, the restaurant we have, the coffee house that we have lunch in, is rated as the top coffee houses in Cairo. And then this is just another view of the of the marketplace. And some people say, well, what is the local attire in Egypt? Well, this is it. It's kind of a long, they wear a lot of white to fend off the sun and stuff like that, but it's usually like these robes. The men wear a lot of the robes. So then we're going to go back to the hotel and you'll have an evening free. We will have a welcome reception, a cocktail reception. And the next morning we'll get up again and we're going to head over to the pyramids. And, you know, the first time I saw the pyramids it's just, you know, we all think of, since we were little kids, this is something in the world that we all want to see. And it does sort of take your breath away once you see it. And once you've seen it, there's a thing in your heart, you just don't lose it. And seeing the pyramids to me was like, I don't know, first time I saw the Great Wall of China or Angkor Wat or, you know, I don't know, taking steps on Antarctica or something. As a product guy, I travel a lot of different places. And in fact, you're not supposed to say this, but so I've been to like 88 countries now. And I would have to say Egypt is in my top 3. So it is a pretty special place. The pyramids themselves were the tallest structures in the world up until the 14th century. They consist of about 2.5 million pieces of stone made of granite and sandstone. These are tombs, and each pyramid has a tomb, and they're tombs of, you know, former pharaohs or kings of royalty in Egypt. And can you go into the pyramids, into the tombs? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And you never know when they're going to be open. We don't include the entrance into the pyramid simply because you never know if it's going to be open. But if by any chance it is open and you do want to go into a pyramid, they charge usually like, it ranges, but you know, the local guy there will charge it for $25. But you've got to be, in terms of mobility, be able to crouch down, walk backwards, go down steep steps with no handles and stuff, because it is a tight fit. And sometimes to get out, you got to back up to get out. So that is if you want to go inside the pyramid. Some people also ask, where do you do a camel ride in Egypt? Well, if you're going to do it, this is the place to do it. We don't include a camel ride. Actually, camels aren't even native to Egypt, but it's a symbol of Egypt. So if you want to take a camel ride, there's a lot of locals with their camels walking around the pyramids, and you pay them like $15 and they'll walk you around for 10 or 15 minutes and you get a picture of the camel with the owner. How old are these particular pyramids? They were built around 2560 BC. And how long did it take to build these pyramids? Well, they're estimating anywhere from 10 to 20 years. Another thing you'll see in this area is the Sphinx. The Sphinx is the body of a lion and head of a pharaoh or king. And this head is actually of King Khafre. And what makes the Sphinx so remarkable is that it was carved out of one stone. Took about 3 years to carve. And I don't know, probably built around 2520 BC. So built right after the pyramids. Another thing we'll do this day is visit the Mena House. Mena House is an old hunting lodge, and it was built back in 1860s. And hunters from Europe used to come down to this part of Egypt, the Nile Delta, to hunt crocodiles, hippos, and stuff. Of course, they don't do that now. But this lodge is really spectacular. Look at the setting, overlooking the pyramids. And so you'll have a nice 5-star lunch overlooking the pyramids. After we've had lunch, we're going to go visit some churches and synagogues in Cairo, and then we'll head back to the hotel for a free evening. And some guests do arrive. What is the attire in Egypt? For the most part, it's just whatever you want to wear, shorts, t-shirt, hat, whatever. There's only one point, and it's on this day, where we do visit a synagogue. And when we do that, they ask that you hide your knees. So we'll go back to the hotel, we'll have a free night. The next morning, we're gonna head back to Cairo airport, and we're gonna board a flight. The flight takes about 1 hour, and we're gonna fly to Luxor. And Luxor is a city of about 500,000. It's an Arabic word meaning fortress, and it's known as the world's greatest open air museum. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna visit, we're gonna fly to Luxor. We're gonna get there at about 11 o'clock in the morning. we'll go straight to our ship. We have our own private dock in Luxor. We'll go to the ship. You can freshen up, have lunch on board, and then we're going to go visit the Luxor Temple. And the Luxor Temple is was built by order of Ramses II, and probably built around 1400 BC. When we do walking tours of the temples along the Nile, each tour of the temples, they average in length from 60 minutes to 120 minutes. On our program, we split remember if I told you, I said there were 68 people on the ship. We actually split everyone up into 3 different groups, and you're assigned your own Egyptologist. And an Egyptologist is like a tour guide, except they know a lot. And they've gone to university, they've got a special degree, and you'll have that same Egyptologist from day 2 all the way through to the last day. And your group will range in size from 20 to 23 people. Well, on top of the 3 Egyptologists, you'll also have like a tour director or a cruise director that we call it, and that person will oversee the Egyptologists as well as your well-being, and that he or she will also travel with you from day 1 right through to day 12. And as I said earlier, in terms of the walking, anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours for a walking tour. You should have, mobility-wise, you should be able to walk or stand for up to 2 hours. The temples here in Egypt, they're not, they're the way they were, 3,000 years ago or 2,500 years ago. And it's, so there's no real ramps, railings, places to sit and stuff. So you should be able to walk or stand for 1 to 2 hours. All right, so let's talk about it. I'm going to show you some of the temples we visit along the way. Not all of them, but some of them. And this is the Temple of Queen Hatshepsut. And I don't know how to pronounce it very well. I don't know the language. I don't know Arabic. But my one of my buddies there in Cairo, he said, just think of hot chicken soup. So the Temple of Hot Chicken Soup. And she ruled Egypt for 20 years. She was very strong, had broad shoulders. She was kind of tough, and she was one of the first female rulers of Egypt. And you think about it today, if a woman runs for prime minister, president, vice president, I don't know, anything like that, it's a big deal. But in Egypt, they were doing that, 3,000 years ago. I mean, they were way ahead of the game. Anyways, if you see carvings or statues of a Queen Hatshepsut these days, you'll see her with sometimes she has a beard, sometimes she's got big arms and stuff like that. And they do that simply because they felt like she had the strength of a man. All right, another place we're going to visit, and this is an exclusive visit, and this is the tomb of Queen Nefertari. And Queen Nefertari, she was the first queen of Pharaoh Ramses II, or King Ramses II. She's probably considered the most beautiful queen of Egypt. She died at the rightful age of 45, which in today's world, that would be like 115. Actually, King Ramses, they say what varies. He lived till either like between 65 and 93 years old. So in any case, he lived a lot longer than Queen Nefertari. Queen Nefertari was well educated. She could read, she could write, and she was 13 when she married King Ramses. He happened to be 15. So this tomb has not been available for public to see for very long. It is open now, but not many people get to see it. And why don't they get to see it? It's because to get in to see the Queen Nefertari, it's about $125 per person. So cruise companies don't include it because of the expense, but we actually include it in our program. So this is something that it'll probably stay with you for the rest of your life once you've seen the Queen Nefertari's tomb. And you can see how colorful it is inside here. And as you walk through it, you will see little poems written on the wall, poetry, and that they were written by King Ramses. I put in this slide, this is the Temple of Horus, and the reason I did that was just because how they found it. It was actually discovered back in 1860 by a French archaeologist, and he was just digging around in the area and he hit some stone, which happened to be the top of the temple here, and he started digging more and more. he was actually on top of a sand dune. So this whole temple was covered in a sand dune. They didn't even know it was there until they started digging around. So it's kind of interesting. This temple was probably, they estimated, built around 230 BC. This picture of the Nile here, I put it in here because I wanted to see the right is the western side and the left is the eastern side. And what a lot of people don't realize that when you sail the Nile, you'll notice that the temples are on the east side and the tombs are on the west side. And why are the tombs on the west side? Because the west side, that's where the end of the day is. It's where the sun sets, and tombs are the end of life. So they do the end of life where the sun sets. Of course, you'll have the opportunity to ride a felucca. This is a typical way to get around the Nile on a felucca. Okay, here's another cool thing that we do that very few other people do is we're going to visit a Nubian village. The Nubians, they've been around in Egypt for about 8,000 years, and the Nubians arrived from the Sahara. It's kind of like the indigenous here in the United States and Canada, you know, First Nations or the Native Americans. They were here a lot longer before, you know, Europeans showed up and stuff. And these are the Nubians, and they're known for their colorfulness. They're known for their archery. There's about 1 million of them that live in southern Egypt and northern Sudan. And if you see their house, they mostly live on the islands in the Nile now. They built the Aswan Dam back in the late 1950s, and most of the Nubians lived behind the Aswan Dam, but the Aswan Dam formed a lake, and the Nubians were displaced, and most of them settled on these islands in the Nile. If you look at their home here, very colorful, and you can see, you know, different carvings, artifacts, and so on. That's actually telling you the story of that family's life. Typical picture of the Nubians. And here's something, again, we do that companies don't do. Most companies will visit, there are other Nubian villages. We're going to a special one called Hessa, but there are a few along the river that other companies may go to. They'll go, say hello, walk around, 30 minutes later, you get back on the boat and you head back to the ship. We're gonna do it a little different, and we're gonna visit our Nubian village. We're gonna walk around, visit the market, talk with the locals, but we're not gonna go back to the boat. We're actually gonna have lunch with the Nubians on their island, so it's a local lunch. And you know, when people come back from trips, yes, they see amazing sights, scenery, blah, blah, blah. But more often than not, we come back with, you know, we talk about the people we met, people we saw. You know, it's all about the people. So that's the Nubian village. And then here's an insider trip. When we get down to Aswan, there's an optional trip to go see Abu Simbel. Again, the first time I saw Abu Simbel, I had no clue it was even there. And it was an incredible temple. And it kind of, King Ramses, he built it for Queen Nefertari. And this temple is about 200 miles south of where our ship is docked at our private dock in Aswan. And the only way to get there really is by plane if you don't have much time. You can drive there, but it takes 5 to 6 hours and you have to spend the night there. But we offer this optional trip down to see Abu Simbel. And it was probably built around 13 BC. And what makes this place so remarkable is, remember when I was telling you about the dam that they were going to build on the Nile? Well, the lake that formed behind the dam is called Lake Nasser, and this temple was right in the path of being drowned by Lake Nasser. So the government actually took this temple apart piece by piece by piece, brick by brick, moved it up the hill 600 feet, excuse me, and rebuilt it. And because it's so far, because of where it's located and so isolated, there's a couple of planes a day that in the morning that will fly to Abu Simbel, and the amount of people that can see it is limited to the amount of people that can sit on the plane. So when you think about, you know, several ships, cruise ships on the Nile, and everyone's trying to sell it as an optional, it's first come, first served. And a lot of people get disappointed that they can't go see Abu Simbel because there's simply no more seats on the plane. But we've worked out a deal with the airline, and we've actually blocked seats on the plane. And so you can purchase this before you leave the United States. And so you can rest assured that you will go see Abu Simbel if you want to. Again, it's something that you wouldn't really want to miss We don't include it because probably only about 80% of the guests will go because of the cost. The cost to see Abu Simbel in 2021 is like $325, and then it's $345 in 2022. But I want to point out this hallway and the entrance here. On February 22nd and October 22nd of every year, when the sun comes over the horizon, the first rays actually shine right through that door and comes out the other side of the temple. It's actually, it's pretty spectacular. There's the, just wanted to point out the hallway in Abu Simbel. Okay, here's a kind of a neat temple. It's Ko-Ombo Temple. It's about 30 miles north of Aswan, built around 330 BC. And it's, if you look in the middle of it, you'll see two entrances. And this temple is dedicated to two gods. One is to the crocodile god of Sobek, and the other one is to the falcon god of Horus. And that's why they have two entrances. And what actually makes this temple actually kind of cool is you'll find a lot of mummified crocodiles here at the temple. The other thing people ask about is security in Egypt, and I'll bring that up. Yeah, we have security guards with you while you're touring Cairo. They'll be on the coach. We'll have them on the ship, you know, at the, where you dock and stuff. And so in terms of security, it's there, and you have really nothing to worry about. Here's another temple that we visit. It's the Karnak Temple. And Karnak Temple is the largest temple in Egypt. Probably covers about 250 acres. So this temple is the one temple where it'll probably take about 2 hours to explore. So like I said, it's 2,000 years old. And I always recommend when you're on these walking tours, have good walking shoes and have a big hat that can cover you from the sun, brim hat, and always bring your sunblock when you go to Egypt. Here's another temple, the Temple of Hathor. And it's considered the best preserved temple in Egypt, built about 2,000 years ago. It actually consists of 3 temples. And if you look in the right in the front here, you'll see like there's like a swimming pool or sacred pools. They did have swimming pools at this temple, or sacred pools. They're filled up with rocks now. You can't go swimming there. But, you know, again, 2,500 to 3,000 years ago, the Egyptians were swimming in pools. And, you know, it's still kind of a novelty today, but again, they were way ahead of their time. Okay, so anyways, we've been down on the Nile for 7 nights. We got to fly back to Cairo, and when we fly back to Cairo on the last day of the cruise, we're going to go over to the Presidential Palace, and the Presidential Palace is here. Again, this is an exclusive visit. Very few people get to go in the palace here, mainly because of the cost. It's incredibly expensive. But in this palace here, built in 1873, this is where the dignitaries come. You know, president lives in a certain area of the palace. And why are we going to the palace in Egypt? It's because you've just been on a cruise with 7 nights of temples and stuff, very similar to like when you go to Europe and, you know, you see a lot of churches, and by day 7, yes, you're going to go visit that church or that plaza and stuff like that. It's absolutely spectacular, but a change of scenery now and then wouldn't hurt. And so we changed the scenery, and we're going to visit the Presidential Palace. It's got incredible artifacts inside there. We'll do a tour of part of the temple. It's known for its clock museum. It's known for its historic paintings. And again, we'll take one little extra step, and after we tour the Presidential Palace, we're going to stay there and have a private lunch in the palace. So this gives you kind of an idea of what the inside of the palace looks. It's pretty cool. That lunch will be your last meal of the trip. It's the day before we leave. And the reason we're going to have sort of like celebrated, it's a farewell lunch. And after the palace and the lunch, we will stop in Old Cairo from the 10th century, see some old Coptic churches and so on. And then you're going to go back to the hotel. You'll have a free evening. And the reason we leave the evening free is because most of the flights back to North America leave in the early morning. And so rather than have a big celebration on the last night, guests are kind of anxious, you know, want to get your suitcase packed, want to get a good night's sleep for the flight back and stuff like that. So we leave the last night open. And then on the very last day, we'll take you back to Cairo Airport. Your transfer will be at a time that sort of connects with your homebound flight. So that's the 12-day trip in Egypt. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the extensions that we have before and after. The first one we have is Jordan, and this is actually turned out to be the most popular of the extension. It's 4 nights in Jordan, it's 2 nights in Amman, and 2 nights in Petra. And here's a picture of Amman itself, one of the oldest cities in the world. There's actually statues in Amman that are over 7,000 years old. And it's a city of old churches, a lot of Roman ruins. And this is the hotel we'll stay in. It's the St. Regis, one of the top hotels in Amman. I get a view for the hotel. The hotel, actually, is currently being renovated at this as I speak to you. We finished at the end of the year, and then we'll be there in a brand new hotel starting in September 2021. Amman itself is a city of about 4 million people. Excuse me. And this is a picture of the lobby. And so you're going to arrive in Amman. You need a visa for Amman or for Jordan, but we'll take care of that, and you'll get it on arrival as part of the package price. And we'll meet you at the airport. We'll take you to the hotel. The next day, you'll get a city tour of Old Amman. And then we're going to head out to the countryside about 30 miles north of the city, and we'll visit Jirash. And Jirash is sort of it's kind of a old city built back in the 2nd century by the Romans. You can sort of see the architecture there. Romans once ruled this part of the world. You can see something that looks like a Colosseum. And so we'll visit it's called Jirash. We'll visit Jirash. We'll also have lunch in a castle along the way. And then we'll head back to Amman for the 2nd night. And of course, breakfast and lunch are always included. And then the next day, we're going to head down for 2 nights and spend 2 nights in Petra. And Petra itself, I mean, you can just look at the scene here. Everybody knows that site. It's been a World Heritage Site since 1985. Actually, it's pretty recent. And it's been around since the 3rd century, but it was abandoned. And it was a remarkable community, and it survived. Even though it's in a desert, they had built great aquifilters down to the city, and so they always had a constant source of water for them to survive. Of course, what happens a lot, we get a drought, the water stops, and it's abandoned. So it was abandoned, and it was found again back in 1812 by just a Swiss traveler. And so it sat empty for years and years and years. So we'll spend a day at Petra, and the hotel we're going to use here is the Old Village Resort. And you've been used to staying at the 5-star hotels on our program in Cairo, in Amman, and on the ship and so on like that. But this hotel is actually a 4-star hotel. But we chose it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's rated as the top hotel in Petra. Number 2 is because it was built by the locals. Yeah, there's some international chain hotels there, a Movenpick, a Marriott, but this hotel is actually owned by the locals. And so it was a good way to support the local community. And to tell you how local it is, this is the Middle East, that they don't even serve alcohol in this hotel. But it's the experience. The climate here can be hot, and you can just sort of see each room's decor does add a feeling of coolness into the room. The second extension is Dubai, that you can do before the cruise. You can either do Dubai or Jordan before the trip. You can't do both, although you could if you do it independently. Here's Dubai, massive city, and the architecture is phenomenal. It can be cheesy, it can be over the top, but you got to give them a pat on the back for building a city out of, that was once just sand. And to be honest with you, the first time it can get really hot in Dubai, it's on the Arab Sea. And when I was there once in July, I was with our local guide there, and it was like 118 degrees that day, just really, really brutal. And after the morning of checking out things, I said, I got to get out of this heat. I just can't take it. So he goes, let's go to the mall. I said, I don't go to malls. I don't do malls. And he goes, you got to go to this mall. So we went to this mall for lunch, and we walked in there, and to my surprise, I found a ski hill in the middle of this shopping mall, artificial snow. And so rather than going out for the afternoon, we spent the whole afternoon in the skiing on this artificial hill when it was like 118 degrees outside. So the hotel we're going to stay at is the Marriott Marquis, And again, views are spectacular. Again, look at the architecture. Can be stunning at times. And so we'll visit Old Dubai, tour Dubai. We'll also head out into the sand dunes and visit the desert area of Dubai. And we'll do a jeep tour through the sand dunes. We'll also have dinner out in the desert. And this is like the entrance into dinner. And so we'll have a group dinner outside at the dinner. Food's really yummy. Again, Middle Eastern, sort of Mediterranean type food. Another neat thing that we're going to do is we just don't stay in Dubai for 3 nights. We'll do a day trip outside of Dubai, go 80 miles to the southwest to Abu Dhabi, and we'll tour Abu Dhabi. And one of the places we will see is a spectacular mosque called the Zai Grand Mosque. And it's not an old mosque. It was built back in 1985. But we're not there on a Friday. But if you were here on a Friday, you'd be standing in this plaza with 40,000 other worshipers. So pretty cool. And then on the last day, we'll fly over to, you'll fly over to Cairo to join the trip. The other option that you can do is Israel for 4 nights. And you'll fly, at the end of the trip, you'll fly to Tel Aviv. It's about an 1.5-hour flight to Tel Aviv. And we'll tour old part of Tel Aviv, and then we'll head up to Jerusalem. Jerusalem's about an hour outside of Tel Aviv. And a lot of people, when they go to Israel, they'll go there because of their Christian history, and they're going to focus on that, or their Jewish histories, and they're going to focus on that. And they're going to go for 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. And but I just felt like what we do is just give you a taste of everything. This is the only time you're probably going to go to Israel, so we'll give you a little flavor of what the whole the country is like in Jerusalem. So we'll visit, of course, we'll visit Bethlehem, the tomb of King David. We'll visit the Jewish quarter. We visit the local market where the locals go to buy their, fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, and have a local lunch. And the hotel we're going to stay at is the Waldorf Astoria, another 5-star hotel in the center of Jerusalem. And you can see the picture of a room here. And we're also going to head outside of Jerusalem one day, and we're going to visit Masada. And Masada is this big fortress on top of a hill. In fact, Masada is a Hebrew word meaning like a foundation or a fortress, probably built around 30 BC. And like the lifestyles of the rich and famous, this is where a lot of, royalty and leaders came, and they would, this was their time away. And it's been a World Heritage Site for many years now. And it was also the final site of the Roman-Jewish War. So take a look at Masada. The only way to get to the top here is by cable car. And if you look on the left-hand side, kind of middle left-hand side, you'll see kind of a black kind of little structure sticking outside the mountain there. And that's the cable car to get you to the top of Masada. And then look in the distance there, top left-hand side, you'll see some water over there. What's that? That water is the Dead Sea. And we're actually going to, from Masada, we're going to head down to the Dead Sea, which is in the lowest elevation in the world. It's probably the saltiest thing, Dead Sea. And I remember as a kid always reading about the Dead Sea and stuff. And what made it most remarkable is that you can't sink. And that's not me, although up to a week ago, everybody did think that was me, but it's not. And this is the Dead Sea. So you get an opportunity to swim in the Dead Sea or float in the Dead Sea if you like, but you don't have to. We're going to stop at a resort there. We'll include a beautiful lunch. And I know, like, if you go into spas and stuff, often they have Dead Sea salt or mud or something like that. Maybe you'll want to pick up a few beauty treatments or something. I don't know. But this is something, again, that we're doing that's different. It's included in your 4-night stay in Israel. Okay, Mary Margaret, that's my trip. Is there a couple things you want to talk about?
I do. Thank you for that wonderful journey. My goodness, I felt like I was going there. I was there actually. But no, we have some early booking discounts for you. So they're valid until September 30th of this year. So again, we're offering 5% off the cruise on any balcony, stateroom, French twin or suites. And So again, think beyond this. Think about 22 and this program. So again, you can save 5%. Next slide, please. And because you decided to join us this evening, and hopefully you had a wonderful glass of wine or your drink of choice, because you attended, we are offering you if you book and deposit by August 15th with Travelex, you will receive a $100 discount per person. So again, this is valid until August 15th. But thank you very much. Again, next slide, please. We're going to open this up to questions and answers.
Yes, so just as a reminder for all of you that are watching, if you have a question, you can either type it in the Q&A box or in the chat box. So please start doing that now, and we'll make sure that we answer your question. But Carol Blum has raised her hand, so I'm going to actually open up to allow her to talk, and that way she can ask her question personally. And then Carol, do you want to unmute yourself?
Can she talk now? Can you?
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute her. I think she's unmuted. Carol, are you there?
I am, and I hit the wrong button. I was fiddling around with chat, so I did not raise my hand. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's okay. You know what? We'll make this very informal. It's okay for you to talk to us. I actually prefer that.
I do too, actually.
Yes, me too. So
I really
Carol,
have a question. It just was a fabulous show. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Oh, that's great. Maybe one day you'll get to Egypt, right?
I would like to do that.
Yeah, it really, you know, when I say it's in my top three places I visited, people ask, well, what are the other two or something?
That was my next question.
Yeah. And I have to say, you know, I went to Myanmar like 18 years ago before tours started going, and I thought that was pretty amazing. And I have to say that Antarctica was the other one.
Really?
Wow. A country. For different, Peru's pretty amazing too.
Okay, any other questions?
question from.
Oh, I have some. Hold on. I've got some in the Q&A and also, okay. So one person is asking, what is the best time to book Egypt?
Do you mean to travel in Egypt? Personally,
or to book Egypt. It's a book. What is the best time to book Egypt, or maybe when is the best time to travel as well? Maybe you can answer both.
Do you want to answer that, Mary Margaret, about booking, or should I just answer both?
You can answer both, but I was going to say I would suggest that you book it quickly because the program is really it is very popular. But go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I think people are feeling pretty confident. You know, by September of next year, this whole thing will be over with, and so the sailings in the fall and winter of 2021, 2022 are getting pretty full. But if I was going to be a traveler and I would go to Egypt, I would go anywhere between maybe the middle of October, third week of October, and right through to the end of March. Once you get into April and May, you know, some people like it. We sell our program to Europeans and the Brits, and they just love heat. The hotter, the better. Some people don't like the heat so much. So if you're trying to avoid the heat, probably go in our fall, winter, or spring.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, because we're used to this in Europe. In Europe, I think they require like the shoulders to be covered. Can you explain why the knees have to be covered?
Oh, it's just a religious thing. It's yeah, it's just like the women in the Middle East are mostly covered and they marry the thing. It's just history. It's the religion of who these people are. I can't really explain it any more than that, but it's only on one day that you have to do that and one visit.
And then also, you touched on security. Can you talk about how safe it is for Americans to travel to Egypt?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing. Nothing's really occurred since the revolution back in around 2010. The ships have been sailing the Nile for years and years and years. There were issues way back in the early 1990s and stuff when it wasn't a good place to visit. But nowadays, there's no. People think of it as because it's the Middle East that it must be dangerous. It's not the case in Egypt. I mean, the country survives on tourism, and government wants to make sure that everyone's taken care of. But we still provide security guards and stuff like that. I mean, Egypt's not in the news, so it's. But we still provide security guards, and just for the sake of making our guests feel comfortable.
Perfect. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions, but if you do think of questions after the presentation, please feel free to either email myself or your advisor that you work with at our office. And we'll be happy to get back to you with any answers that you want your questions to be answered. And then one person is also commenting that we are pleased that AmaWaterways is leading the way back to Egypt. So we're very, very, very excited about that. I was excited about when you had announced that you were coming out with this. So I think this is fantastic.
No, so do I. Absolutely. Thank you.
And then a lot of people are commenting about a great program. They enjoyed the presentation. So thank you both for joining us and spending time with us. I truly appreciate it. And I'm sure we will be in touch.
All right, everybody,
so much.
Stay well, stay safe.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank
Have a good evening, everybody.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.